And then there's Columbia University. It has dropped its overnight deadline for pro-Palestinian protesters to break up their encampment there. The university says talks with the demonstrators have shown progress. Police have made arrests at universities across the country, though. At Emory University in Atlanta, police used tear gas on protesters. The University of Southern California has announced it is canceling its main commencement ceremony over what it calls safety concerns. So we have team coverage of these demonstrations. CBS News Los Angeles's Rick Montanez is at USC. Our Lilia Luciano is at Columbia here in New York. And we're going to begin with CBS News Texas reporter Jason Allen. He is in Austin. Good morning.
Overnight, Ohio State University joined the growing list of colleges demonstrating against Israel's war in Gaza. Earlier Thursday, a similar scene at Emory University. Social media videos showed officers tearing down tents and appearing to use a taser on someone pinned to the ground. It came a day after more than 50 people were arrested at the University of Texas at Austin. Both police and protesters have at times crossed a line, says Greg Luciano, the president of the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression.
You don't have a generalized First Amendment right to, turn the public area of a campus into a camping ground. But definitely we've seen at places like Emory and places like UT Austin, police taking things much too far.
Most detained demonstrators have not been charged with violent offenses, but there have been several instances of threatening and abusive behavior. Our Nancy Chen spoke to one Jewish student at Columbia University who grew up in Israel.
Many of us knew people or the music festival or that lived nearby. I'm sorry, I'm getting very emotional about that.
I can see you're getting emotional.
And adding to that, the situation where people scream hateful speech, who have harassed and attacked both verbally and physically people, is just making it impossible to be here.
Lukianov says the lack of constructive dialogue between both sides on college campuses points to broader failures in American academia.
Campuses should be sort of citadels to self-reflection and asking yourselves, do I really understand this? Would I benefit from talking to someone that I disagree with? And I think that universities, particularly elite universities, have gotten really bad at doing this.
I talked with a lot of students who came out yesterday just to maybe see what might happen, anticipating more chaos. Instead, what they saw this time was an event where both sides were able to have a voice. It did get a little emotional at times, but it never got out of control. Anne-Marie?
Well, that's good. Jason, thank you. Our Lilia Luciano is at Columbia University. And Columbia, this is where it all really began. You're in the epicenter of the demonstrations, Lilia. So what are things like now?
Well, Anne-Marie, I was here last week when it all, on day 2 or 3 after it had just begun. It was a very active protest. Right now, it's, 9:05. It's still not the beginning of the pro-Israeli or pro-Israel protest that's going to begin right behind me. But you are seeing some people starting to assemble over the last week. There have been pro-Israel protests happening outside of the university, and it's usually, or at its maximum, it's been a smaller group, a few dozen people. So we expect that to begin at 9:30. Inside the university, the encampment remains. There was talk that the university and the students who are negotiating, whether it's student organizers talking to university senators, administrators, and faculty, according to the university, as you mentioned earlier, those talks were showing some progress. And of course, what the students have been saying since the protest began here in Columbia is they are seeking transparency, so disclosure and then divestment of the university's investments in companies that they say have ties to either the IDF or the Israeli government. So that's what the students are asking. The university is negotiating or talking to them, and depending on where if they reach or not an agreement, then the encampments would be either taken away or the students would stop the protest. Now, school here is going on until Monday, and then finals as well as classes are going to continue either hybrid. Students can take their final exams virtually, and the concerns are if the protests continue, whether or not the students will be able to have their commencement happen here in a couple weeks.
And so what about the school's president? She is in the hot seat now. She testified in front of Congress like some of her other counterparts. She did much better than they did. It seemed like she was going to be okay. But now there are calls for her to resign and other things. What's happening with her?
That's right, Anne-Marie. There have been calls from both sides. The students who are protesting the war, the anti-war protesters, the pro-Palestinian protesters say, look, we expected that she was going to stand by us. There's one lawsuit of discrimination, a civil rights lawsuit that started this week from pro-Palestinian students who are saying the university discriminated against them when they sent the police to arrest them or to take away the encampments. The Israeli or the Jewish students also in the university say, look, you're not keeping us safe. And that's what those hearings were about, that there is anti-Semitic language and attacks happening in the university and that students were not feeling safe coming into the school. So both sides have been calling for her to resign. The last time we heard any communication from the president was 3 days ago. Ever since, CBS News has been reaching out to her for comment. She is not giving interviews at this point to the media. But of course, we're here today and hopefully we'll hear more.
All right, Lilia, thank you very much.